Welcome guys, in this video we are going to be reviewing and talking through and listening to the brand new StudioRack from Waves Audio. Waves were established in 1992 and are well known for coming up with the first ever software plugin, which was their Q10 Paragraphic EQ, if I've remembered that correctly. Effectively, this plugin is a rack system. Now yes, other brands have had rack systems for a while, but this has some unique features to Waves that are potentially game-changing. The functionality of this plugin is unbelievable. I'll explain more in the video because it will make sense when we get into the computer. But what you can do is effectively create your own plugins, your own channel strip plugins, all within one plugin. So you can move them around within your DAW from channel to channel super easily. You can move them from DAW to DAW. You can save your presets and move them between Logic and Pro Tools, and they will work, obviously provided you have those plugins on all the systems. And the best bit about this is that this plugin is free. Now obviously you can only use Waves plugins within the rack, you can't use other brands, but Waves are always having sales and they offer some great plugins. I've done a quick mix on a snippet of music from one of my songs. Let's dive into the computer and we'll talk through just how good this plugin is. So we're here in Logic with a little snippet of music from a song of mine called I Wish. The song is out, link will be in the description below. But this snippet is featuring a guitar solo that I didn't use on the track. My good friend David Danjade played this and it sounds amazing. He's a fantastic London session guitar player. The original that you can hear on Spotify and that was played by Jez Davies on the Hammond organ, and he's done a fantastic job, but I just wanted something slightly different for this, and I really liked the end of this solo that David did. So we've got the drums at the top, they're all going to a drum bus, bass below, they're going to a bass bus, rhythm guitars going to a rhythm guitar bus, and the lead solo going to a solo guitar bus. Now there is no processing on any of these tracks except on the buses. So let's listen to the drums first without any processing. Sounds like a kit, and let's pull up the StudioRack. So the first thing you'll see on the left here is this section here, which is where we can assign macros, and with those we can adjust parameters in any of the plugins. So we just choose a plugin, choose a parameter, and you can change it. It's dead easy. So the first thing I've got is the Chris Lord Algae Mix Hub here, which is based on the SSL channel strip. It's got a lot of the similar features. I think it looks a bit better, and there's a few additional features. There's videos online with Chris talking through this, and it sounds great. It's been very well thought out. There are loads of presets, but I've just found, I can't remember which one I found, but I've tweaked it slightly, and this is how the drums now sound. So there's a gentle compression and just a bit of a glue and pulling out the nice frequencies and taking away some of the not so nice ones in the drums there. Next up in our chain, we have a multi-band splitter. Now this is where this plugin is game changing. It works similar to a multi-band compressor where you split up the frequencies and you can then adjust the compression on each one. However, this enables us to add plugins to each individual frequency spectrum. It's absolutely brilliant, and I don't know why it doesn't exist already. So you can split this up into as many as 5 different frequency bands. So what I've done is sub 100 for the sub and the kick drum, 100 to 275 because I wanted to isolate the snare drum, punch and body, mids 275 to 795, where you'll see I've actually taken away a few frequencies, cymbals, and then you've got the upper frequencies there. And we're going to talk through what I've done and how I've processed these, because I wanted to experiment with processing each frequency band very differently for very different reasons. So let's turn that on. First up, we have our sub 100, and the first thing I've done is put on a gate. Let's hear that without. So I wanted to get rid of the snare drum there, but in hindsight, it's kind of making the kick sound a bit clicky. Let's listen to what I did, because I did compensate for that with this low air plugin. And a compressor. That's a nice sounding compressor. And submarine. Now let's try that without the gate. Alright, so I prefer it without the gate. Fair enough, I had to try it though. Right, next up we have the snare drum frequency band. So the magic number for snare drum punch is about 200 to 250. So I wanted to isolate that frequency band and treat it differently. So the first thing I've done is added in a gate. Let's hear that with and without. So there's a bit of cymbal bleed and a bit of kick. Let's get rid of that. And I've added a Q10 parametric EQ there to take out a few resonance that I don't like and boost 168, I think it is. And then I wanted to try this and just to add a reverb just to this frequency band to really highlight the snare drum, but without the reverb affecting the entire frequency spectrum of the snare drum and potentially getting in the way. Nice. Moving up. So the middle frequency, 275 to 795, is where the 500 and the mids of a kit sit, which I personally don't like. I always try and take them out. I think they just sound messy and resonant. Let's hear it with and without. So straight away you can hear that really tidies up and gets rid of that kind of washy, boxy sound. This is a great plugin, the F6, and it's got this meter, as you can see, which really is really useful, helps you identify what frequencies are going off. Obviously, use your ears more than your eyes, but it's nice to have a visual guide as well. So the next band up is where a lot of the snare drum attack is going to be, and I've processed that with a parametric EQ and an Abbey Road saturator plugin. This sounds great. I really like how that sounds on the snare drum. And then the top end of the frequencies, cymbals, overheads, hi-hats, and so on. So what I wanted to do here was process the cymbals as widely as possible. The rest of the kit is central to give it that foundation, but the cymbals I wanted to be quite wide. So I've got a S1 stereo imager here, and this is a great little tool. So we'll start at the center and then we'll dial it wider. That's given me a nice stereo image. And next I've added in an API 2500 compressor, just a little bit of compression to even out all these hits. So let's build those back in one by one. I'm going to take a bit more of that out. So this tool is so powerful in terms of how we can precisely manipulate the sound. Obviously, you can adjust all these frequency bands. You don't need 5, you can have fewer if you want. But you can apply any of the Waves 200 plus plugins to each section. Now, I would say this is likely to get quite CPU intensive. But I've not had any major problems so far. It's more when you start bringing in the Abbey Road stuff that's very CPU intensive, but I've only got one going so far. Following on from this, I've added in, another Abbey Road mastering chain. Let's hear that. This sounds great. This is bringing out the low end and it's just gluing everything together. Really nice plugin. All right, moving on to the bass guitar. Sounds like a bass, played by Stefan Marinov, another great London session musician. So first thing again is a dynamic EQ. So I've set those so when those frequencies are just a little bit too loud, it reduces them slightly, but when they're not too loud, it doesn't reduce them by too much. Beauty of a dynamic EQ, really useful tool. CLA 2A compressor. Just smoothing that out, love that. So next in our chain, we have this parallel split feature, and this is the next big selling point of this plugin. This enables us to split our bus outputs or master output if you have it applied to that. So you have one channel going straight down the middle, however you want your lead processing to be. Then you can have up to 7 extra, so 8 in total, parallel chains. So if you wanted to distort one loads and just blend that in a little bit, you can. If you wanted to have reverb on one and blend that in a little bit, you can, again with delay. Any processing, the possibilities are just endless with this. It's brilliant. So on my main channel, I've just added in a Manny Mariquin bass tone shaper plugin. That's just adding a little bit of warmth. So that's our main bass sound. So on our side channel here, I've added in a Jack Joseph Puig bass plugin here. Now let's just mute these other two and pull that up. So straight away you can hear that's bringing in a little bit of noise. So we're going to gate that in a bit, but this is how it sounds with. A little bit of grit, a little bit of drive. Then I've added in the Abbey Road saturator again. With a nice bit of compression. What I'm going to do though actually is copy this compressor over. Whoa. That sounds great. Now obviously that hiss is unbearable, so what we need to do is add in a gate. There we go. That's quite a gnarly bass sound, so I'm not going to use all of that. So what we're going to do is blend this in a little bit. And the computer's not like that. Probably the Abbey Road plugins. So much like you would assigning auxes and bus sends to this, where you can process different auxes and buses differently to get this effect. This is doing it all in one plugin, and the beauty of this is that I can save this as a preset, put into preset menu as ed bus, bass bus 2. Boom, that's there. So next time we want to load a plugin, we've got all the factory artist plugins here and mine as well. We can also save these as an XPS file, which means we can basically transfer this to other systems and other computers, and this exact plugin chain will come up, provided the other system has your Waves plugins there. So instead of having to set up auxes and buses, etc., just add in this rack. It's so easy. It's brilliant. Next up, we have some rhythm guitars. Let's hear those on their own. Again, played by my friend David DeAndrade. He's got a lovely PRS guitar and Victory amps. They sound really good. Check out his Instagram for more information on that. Then, what have I added on the StudioRack? So I've not done much. CLA Mix Hub again. I've found a generic preset, tweaked it slightly. That's cleaned up the low end a bit, added some brightness, smoothened it out, glued it all together. Sounds good. Next thing, I've done a parallel split. So what I wanted to do is the main send straight down the middle. That's covering all the stereo imaging of the guitars as they are in the DAW. Now on the side channel, what I wanted to do is EQ the guitars a little bit and spread them as wide as I could. So in this drop-down menu here, we can assign the parallels to wherever we want, whether it be stereo, which is all-encompassing, just left, just right, just in the middle, which is great, or just to the sides. Now, as far as I can tell, we can't change the parameters to how far to the sides this can go, so I'm assuming it's all the way far left, far right. So if we blend that in with the original signal, so the two combined, you've got a bit more weight out to the sides with this parallel send. What I want to do is add a delay, for example purposes. Let's add in a H delay. Let's find a generic tape delay preset. I'm not going to fiddle with any of that. Where's the dry wet mix? That's fine. So the delay there is on the very far side. It just adds a little bit of interesting texture. I'm going to take that off because there's plenty of delay on the lead guitar sound coming up. And the lead guitar, sounds like this. First up, we have our dynamic EQ to take out the bottom end, reduce some mid frequencies that were annoying, and just to ease off some of the fizz and top end there. Then I've added a generic delay. Next, we have a parallel split. Again, main channel down the middle, but what we've done here is far left and far right. Put a H delay on either side. Whoa. So if I'm right, I put slightly different delays on them. Yep, so the right one's delayed a little bit longer, the left one's delayed a little bit shorter, and we get a really nice combination between the two. Blend those in. And last but not least, some reverb. Just to thicken that out a bit as well. So let's hear what we've got so far with all of these in action at the same time. And that comes up. Right. So at this point, it seems these are quite CPU intensive, which I get. There's so much going on within these plugins when you add in all the processing and the parallel splits and the multiband splits and so on. So what I'm going to do is bounce this down, load up another session, and then use the StudioRack to effectively master the track. So guys, what do you think? I am blown away with the functionality of this plugin. I'm staggered no one's done this before, but well done Waves, and thank you for getting this out there to us. The functionality and the detail that we can go into, particularly on the drums, is brilliant. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. If you like some of the plugins in this video, there are links in the description below for those. If you've liked this video, please give that like button a hit. It does help the channel. Subscribe for more content, including my 2-minute tech review Tuesdays, which is near enough 2 minutes every Tuesday, covering all sorts of gear, equipment, plugins, and all things home studio related. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.